And we're starting with AEW Dynamite, and going into last night's show, the interest of fans was firmly on Adam Copeland and what he'd do on his first night on the show. The show started off with a bang as Copeland, Chris Jericho, and Kenny Omega shared the screen for a backstage interview with Renee Paquette, with Copeland speaking about how happy he is in AEW. Copeland added that it was good to see Jericho again, and joked that there should be maple syrup floating around, a nod to himself, Jericho, Omega, and Paquette, all hailing from Canada. The Rated R superstar added that he signed up to AEW for the long haul, and told Jericho and Omega to take out Don Callis' family, giving a hint as to who he wants to target next. In the closing moments of Dynamite, Copeland cut an in-ring promo explaining his AEW arrival before calling out his old friend, TNT champion Christian Cage. Copeland spoke about reuniting their tag team and ending his career with Cage, and as the two men embraced, it seemed that Cage was ready to reform their legendary tag team once more. However, Christian Cage abruptly responded with "Go f*** yourself" and left the ring, leaving Adam Copeland in shock and adding intrigue towards Copeland's AEW in-ring debut next week. That match will see Copeland face Cage's ally Luchasaurus, and with his Profane comment this week, expect Christian to be firmly in the corner of his ally, despite his long-term friendship with Adam. While we have to wait for next week to see the match, fans at last night's Dynamite got a teaser for the bout after Dynamite went off the air. After the show, Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne tried to attack Copeland, but both were laid out with a spear, and the WWE Hall of Famer will look to do the same next week at Title Tuesday. Copeland's debut at AEW WrestleDream was a huge moment for the promotion, and while it had been rumored he'd be signing, there were no photos of him at the show before his debut. Thanks to smartphones and fans wanting to spoil surprises, debuts are often revealed before they happen, and while speaking to Sports Illustrated, Copeland revealed how they kept his debut under wraps. He said, "They wheeled me in. I could see people's feet, but nothing else. It was all so funny to me. I couldn't control myself. I started cackling. People must have known that was me, right? Oh look, there goes someone in a wheelchair, chuckling like he has emphysema, with a cover over their head. That's pro wrestling for you." In the interview, Copeland acknowledged the opportunities he has in AEW, such as competing at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom and possibly facing the likes of Kazuchika Okada or Kenny Omega. When the first Wrestle Kingdom event happened in 2004, Copeland was firmly established as a WWE superstar, and now he has the chance to work a show that would have been impossible had he stayed. It's not just in-ring plans for Copeland, as he is also likely free to pick up any movie or TV projects he can, but Copeland has made it clear his focus will remain on his work in the ring. Next week's Title Tuesday episode of Dynamite is being stacked so the show can compete with a stacked WWE NXT that'll include John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Asuka, and Paul Heyman, leaving wrestling fans spoiled for choice on October 10th. It was less than 6 months ago that WWE hosted what was promoted as the most important draft ever, but since then, there's been plenty of examples of talent competing on other brands. That'll continue to be the case this Friday, as PW Insider reports that the entire Alpha Academy will be at this week's SmackDown, despite being Raw-branded superstars. It's not currently known if the trio will actually be on the SmackDown broadcast or confined to a dark match, but they will be doing something at SmackDown in St. Louis. Raw's Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso will also appear to promote their Fastlane tag title match, so we expect the Judgment Day to be on the show too, as fans can expect to see red during this week's episode of the Blue Brand. As previously stated, this week's NXT will be a stacked show, with some of WWE's top names being recruited for the fight against AEW Dynamite, which will air on the same night. Now, those attending the show will get even more bang for their buck, as not only will the October 10th NXT see the likes of John Cena, Asuka, and Cody Rhodes, but it'll be a double taping. This means that in theory, Rhodes, Cena, Asuka, and Paul Heyman could also be appearing on the taped episode that'll air on October 17th, in what'll lead to a serious boon in the ratings for next week's show and the one to come after. In recent weeks, Karrion Kross has been even more cryptic than usual, despite not being on WWE TV in close to 2 months, facing AJ Styles on the August 11th SmackDown. Kross has had fans guessing about his next move with his videos shared online, and now a post on Twitter has left fans wondering what's to come. In the post, Kross writes about corruption by proximity, and something so malicious it changes everything, and said that whatever it is, it was there all along. While Cross is teasing something in his future, his own future with WWE remains in question because, as we reported the other day, some in WWE are considering releasing him. Cross was said to be lucky he wasn't among those cut earlier this month, with the consensus among many that his return to WWE just simply hasn't worked. Whether Cross does get something big on TV or a pink slip by management, time will tell, but for now, the former NXT champion continues to have fans guessing. At AEW WrestleDream, Julia Hart was unable to dethrone TBS champion Chris Statlander, breaking the impressive winning streak of Hart in the process. Now Hart is preparing to take some time off from AEW, but for a very good reason, as the young wrestler prepares to say "I do." Fightful Select reports that Hart and Lee Johnson are both taking time off from AEW as they are getting married and will be taking a break to enjoy their honeymoon. It was noted that they will take a little bit of time off, but that time frame wasn't specific, and we'll have to see if she'll have the same momentum she had prior to her loss to Statlander. Recently, Sammy Guevara aligned himself with Don Callis and his family, but as Callis explained on Dynamite, fans may not be seeing the Spanish God in the ring for some time. Callis revealed that Guevara is not medically cleared to compete, and while we don't know when he'll be back in action, he'll have time to spend with his wife, Ty Mello, as they prepare for their first child. For some time now, Billy Starks has been impressing fans tuning into AEW, and now it's been confirmed that the young wrestler is All Elite. In April, Tony Khan said that AEW had signed her, but Starks herself did not address this, and it was this week on Wrestling Observer Live that she confirmed she is a signed talent. Last week, AEW Dynamite suffered from a myriad of technical issues, with Tony Khan feeling the need to apologize for the problems, and there were more issues with this week's program. Taking to Twitter this week, Khan shared more issues with Dynamite, stating that for some reason, TBS listings are saying that the Dynamite would begin at 4 p.m. Eastern instead of at 8. Khan said this issue was affecting DirecTV and Spectrum users, as well as possibly others, and told fans to check their DVR as the listings were entirely wrong. Perhaps Dynamite has come under a curse from Danhausen just like many of his opponents, and whatever the case, AEW are hoping that this is the last technical issue the show experiences. More from Dynamite as Rey Fenix and Nick Jackson kicked off the action with a match for the international title that saw plenty of moves, transitions, and counters. Unfortunately, the match felt like it was never going anywhere until Fenix scored the win and retained his title, and while the talent of both men can't be denied, a certain spark was lacking. To be fair, this was an energetic opener with the right pace to start the show, but nothing more than that, and we have to give props for the right person winning. Fenix did seem noticeably slower at times though, perhaps due to what appears to be a hip injury, as the international champion has been on a worrying trend of leaving matches worse than he should. Post-match, a vignette involving Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and the Kingdom aired, and while it would have been nice to hear it, AEW's biggest heel, production issues, continued to plague the company. Up next, Wardlow made his return to the ring to obliterate Griff Garrison in a match that was only ever going to be one-sided. Wardlow dispatched the Varsity Blonde and scored a literal walk-off powerbomb for the win in a great reintroduction of Wardlow if AEW wants to get serious about pushing him again. Far too often, AEW has heeded a push for Wardlow only for absurd and ineffective booking to doom his plans, and with this win, it feels appropriate to take a wait-and-see approach for the War Dog. At WWE Fastlane, John Cena will team with LA Knight to face Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso, and for Cena, he'll be hoping to break an unfortunate record at premium live events. As Cage Match revealed, Cena has not won at a premium live event since October 2018, when he and Bobby Lashley defeated Kevin Owens and Elias at WWE Super Showdown in Australia. Ironically, for the man fans accused of winning too much, Cena has been without a W at a major event for 5 years now, a streak he hopes to break this weekend at WWE Fastlane. One of Cena's biggest defeats at a premium live event came at WrestleMania 28 when he lost to The Rock during what was a deeply personal feud that touched on very real issues between the two. In 2009, Cena gave a series of interviews bashing The Rock for abandoning wrestling for Hollywood, comments that John has since apologized for, as he realized why making movies keeps The Rock away. Speaking on the bump, Cena was asked about his reunion with the Great One during the September 15th SmackDown in Denver and reflected on how his attitude has changed on The Rock. He said, "Thank you for your question, but let me reframe it. What was it like to see a friend that I haven't seen in a long time? In between the times that we've spent with each other, I've openly come to a realization that my first attempt of us competing against each other probably was a professional mistake on my past. I've been very apologetic and very open with my apology that the way I conducted business was not in the realm of conducting good business. We did great business, it was good to see him and reconnect after all this time. That was the first time we'd seen each other since I publicly apologized for that, and I just wanted to make sure he heard that face to face again, and it's good to see a friend. The Rock certainly surprised fans with his appearance at SmackDown, and for John Cena, it was great to see a friend, despite the previous animosity that is now a thing of the past. At this time, Malakai Black is out with a slight calf tear and knee hyperextension, issues which have kept him out of action since August's All In event. Now though, Black is getting close to a return, as on Twitter, Zelina Vega shared a photo of her training with her husband and stated that she is working out with the best. Black certainly seemed to be 100% in the video as he was taking bumps and flips like nothing was wrong, so it may not be long before we see the Dutchman back in an AEW ring. Right now, 3 ex-AEW stars are under WWE contracts, those being Cody Rhodes, Jade Cargill, and Brian Pillman Jr., but fans have been wondering who could be next. It was earlier this year that reports came out stating that several AEW contracts are coming up at the end of this year, and WWE has their eye on many names currently working for Tony Khan. When BWE was asked about the chances of Ricky Starks coming to WWE, the Proven Insider said there is a 75% chance of it happening unless something drastic takes place. Starks is no stranger to WWE, as he was at this year's Royal Rumble show where Cody Rhodes made his return from injury, and a photo of Starks at the event would go viral online. In the past, it's been stated that WWE has their sights set on MJF, Wardlow, and some others in AEW. And do you think Ricky Starks will become a WWE superstar? Let us know in the comments. On Dynamite, AEW's Trios champions, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, battled Kip Sabian, the Butcher, and the Blade, with the babyfaces scoring the predictable victory. This match was good, but it would have been better had the heels been built up in any meaningful way, and without that, this match was more of an extended squash than anything else. It's baffling that AEW still has not figured out how to make the best use of the Butcher and the Blade, and this match showed a lack of credible threats to the AEW Trios titles. The Acclaimed is still super popular, but compared to where they were a year ago at this time, they feel like they've cooled off significantly. Perhaps a feud of real meaning would reverse that trend. AEW World Champion MJF continued to prove that he is one of the best things in wrestling and the best thing in AEW with a segment that advanced his feud with Switchblade Jay White. What started as a back and forth between MJF, Juice Robinson, and the Guns intensified with a sneak attack by White on the Devil that left him lying. Not only would MJF be attacked, but White and his cronies would steal the AEW World Championship, with White saying it felt right to have the gold on his shoulder. White issued a challenge for the AEW World Champion, and MJF was quick to accept, and just like that, we have a main event for next month's Full Gear pay-per-view. This was a short, sweet, red-hot segment that kept the fans hooked and continued MJF's improbable run as AEW's top babyface that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The segment also intensified the feud with White that started last week, and the two men already seem like fierce rivals, and expect plenty of fun segments between the two in the build to Full Gear. With Sammy Guevara not cleared to compete, as Don Callis explained, it was Kyle Fletcher who teamed with Konosuke Takeshita to face the dream team of Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. It was Jericho and Omega who won the bout, a needed win given that Don Callis' family has been enjoying the bulk of the wins as of late, and this was one excellent tag team match. Unfortunately for Omega and Jericho, their post-match celebration was short-lived as they were flattened by Powerhouse Hobbs, who was revealed as the latest member of Callis' family. The heels laid out Jericho and Omega and stood tall to close out a segment that propels things forward and raises questions as to how the veterans can defeat Callis, who has seemingly an endless supply of young names. If this feud is booked as well as what we saw this week, complete with matches as fun as what we saw on Dynamite, there will be plenty to like about what's to come in this program. Dynamite also saw timeless Toni Storm defeat Skye Blue, and while the result was never in any real question, Storm continued to prove that she is excelling with her character. Her body language, facial cues, and verbal skills have all helped make this character a revelation, and Blue was able to hold her own and a great sign of bigger things for her future. So that was this week's AEW Dynamite, and there was a lot to love about this week's episode ahead of next week's Title Tuesday. The aforementioned program between Adam Copeland and Christian Cage to close out the show was fantastic, as was the angle between MJF and Jay White. Throw in some excellent work from Toni Storm and Powerhouse Hobbs joining the Don Callis family, and there was something for everybody on this show. We have to say that this wasn't a perfect show, as the Rey Fenix vs. Nick Jackson match didn't click like some had hoped, and the Acclaimed feel soul cold compared to where they once were. With that said, these are small gripes from an otherwise excellent show, and there's plenty to look forward to next week on Dynamite. The Title Tuesday name is apt, as AEW Women's World Champion Saraya will face Hikaru Shida, while Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson will face off for a shot at the TNT title. Other major matches for the show include Chris Jericho vs. Powerhouse Hobbs, while Hangman Page will face Switchblade Jay White. Of course, the biggest match going into the show will be Adam Copeland's debut against Luchasaurus, as AEW will hold nothing back in their battle with the star-studded WWE NXT. Just a few months back, the idea that Adam Copeland would be competing in AEW or even appearing outside WWE seemed impossible after spending a quarter of a century with the promotion. Speaking to Sports Illustrated this week, the Rated R superstar was asked about his WWE run and made it clear that he will be forever thankful for what the company did for him. Copeland also made it clear that WWE is not mad at him joining AEW, and he has received messages of support from various departments in WWE, as well as the talent themselves. The Hall of Famer said that WWE is happy for him, and he is happy for WWE, who he is sure will continue to crush it, as all metrics from the company are proving right now. Adam Copeland may be out of WWE, but he hasn't lost his edge, as the Canadian is excited for a new chapter with AEW, one that is without any hostility with his former employer. And we're ending today with Johnny Gargano, who returned to TV on this week's Raw and reunited with Tommaso Ciampa, and another reunion is seemingly in the works. When BWE was asked, the WWE insider stated that a reunion of The Way is coming soon, which will consist of Gargano, Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, and Dexter Lumis. As to whether Ciampa will become an official member or not, we'll have to wait and see, but expect the popular NXT group to reunite soon on Monday Night Raw.